All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Friday Mastermind. Every Friday, 9 o'clock, we are here to bring on amazing guests, people that are winning in the market, people that have great ideas. And then we have a lot of folks watching this live. Katie Pastor, just from Roseville, California. She's on track to close 14 loans this month. Great job, Katie. In fact, it's been too long. Let's do an interview soon. If anybody else wants to share what city and state and how many loans you're closing this month, feel free to do so. So I'm super pumped about this. Before we bring on our special guest, D Bird, we don't have Todd today.
Nope.
So usually Todd Bookspan is here and the three of us lead this, but what's up, Deborah?
Hi, happy Friday and happy 1 week until we're about halftime of the year, guys. So push for next week's closings and let's finish the first half strong.
Yeah, I love how you always do a great job of that, of just reminding us, where we're at in the year, reminding us where we're at in quarterly planning cycles. And such a good point. We are 1 week till halftime, 1 week till the beginning of the third quarter of 2024. And it's truly going to be a historic third quarter because the NAR settlement will have come into play. I interviewed James Dwiggins a couple days ago. It just went live on our YouTube channel. James is the CEO of Next Home, which is one of the 20th, well, I don't know if it's 20th, but there's only about 20 real estate companies in America that do over $12 billion a year in real estate transactions. His is one of them. He's got over 6,000 offices, or excuse me, 600 offices and 6,000 realtors. And I did an interview with him, and I highly recommend you check it out. It's in our YouTube channel, just went live. But we talked a lot about the NAR settlement, and it's unanimous. I mean, it's a big deal. Everyone I talk to, it believes there will be real winners. And I'm doing a webinar that's sponsored by sold.com next week, where I'm going to interview Jason Mitchell, the #1 realtor in America. And we're going to have Socia Vela on that call. And we're going to just be talking about the NAR settlement. So I think that really sets up today's call well, because I think what Scott Nicholson's doing with the lender marketing platform is really special. Everyone I've talked to, whether it's a real estate professional, whether it's a mortgage professional, is telling me that consumers need options. And if realtors and lenders together are going to bring real value, they need to innovate with transparency. And that was a theme in my call with Ron, like how transparency equals value. And Scott's going to be sharing strategies that everyone on this call, you're a mortgage coach, that you can use to win with realtors. Scott's title was 5 ways to get more buyer representations signed. And so, Scott, what's up, my brother?
How are you? Thanks for having me on. I'm doing good. I got D Bird, and we have a special guest, which we'll introduce in just a minute, Ken Watson. So I'm excited, and I agree. I think half of our industry understands the magnitude of what's going to come our way. Then the other half is either don't know how to deal with what's coming our way, and or don't think it's really a big deal. And I think it's a big, big, big mistake. And so we're going to go really deep, especially bring in Mortgage Coach and specifically the TCAs I'm going to be highlighting, so we can really go out to help. And it kind of leads us to our guests. So I'll kind of throw it back at you, Dave, on that one.
Yeah. So I just want everyone to realize when we say it's a big, big deal, it doesn't necessarily mean that there will not be buyer's agents getting paid three points. I just want to make sure we're clear on that. Now no one knows exactly what's going to happen. New business models coming in, what will be the average commission of a buyer's agent. But what all the top people believe is that the agents that are with the right lending partner, that are collaborating and innovating with the right lending partner, are going to gain market share and win. And so I just want to make sure I put that caveat in this. I think for mortgage professionals, but specifically mortgage coaches, this is the best thing that could ever happen, because it makes you more valuable to real estate agents. And Scott's going to walk you through these strategies. So Scott, why don't you introduce Ken. I know you
Yep.
you wanted to bring him on this call. Tell us a little bit about
Yep.
Ken, and let's get after it.
So I wanted to get Ken on the call because he's not only a client of yours, Dave, at Mortgage Coach, he's a client of mine over at Lender Marketing Platform. Ken is a branch manager leader at Neo Home Loans. He's, in California, now in Texas. So he's, doing his function there. But what I love about Ken is how he's really embraced the stuff that we've done in our community, LMP, and he's really taken it to market. So I wanted you guys to hear and see what Ken is doing, but also the almost like head scratching feedback he's encountering in these interviews, to where it's like, oh my gosh, really? You guys really have no idea. So with that said, Ken Watson, Neo Home Loans, fellow mortgage coach user and lender marketing platform user. So welcome, Ken.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate that. Dave, Deb, it's good to see you guys.
Yeah, it's good to see you. I'm glad you made it.
Thank you.
Apparently it's Black Shirt Day. I didn't get the memo.
Mine's pretty much blue.
You
Mine's
obviously
Pretty
didn't
much
get the
black
memo,
shirt day
Deborah.
every day for me. So
Yeah, there you go.
Me too.
I got to
Turn
bring
your
the
camera
pink and the
off, Devin, go with
purple.
your black. Well, let me set Ken up first. So let's do this. So Ken, and I know Ken has a time crunch, so we got to get him. He's got appointments in 20 minutes. So Ken, I want you to talk about a little bit what your conversations you're having with your agents, kind of some of the aha moments, and then what you're presenting to them to bring out that transparency, in those options, like Dave mentioned to start the call. So how are those conversations to begin with, what you're doing with your agent partners?
sure. I've been kind of interviewing a lot of different agents, agents that have been in the business for a very long time. I've been doing this 27 years, so I have a lot of long-standing relationships, but also agents that are fairly new to the business. And it's really interesting to hear the thought processes across the board, because I think Dave set it up really well, and so did you, Scott. The agents that are just really across the board on this stuff. Now, as lenders, for those who have been in the business for a while, we've kind of gone through this with TRID and our situation with the compensation changing and Dodd-Frank and all that. So we've gone through that whole fear aspect of things changing and how do we adjust to that. So I think from that standpoint, we can bring a lot of value to agents. One of the things I'm hearing from agents is this is a nothing burger. It's not going to be a big deal. It's going to be business as usual for some agents. And then other agents are saying, man, I'm just not sure exactly how this is going to impact my business. I'm really fearful of what's going to happen in the future. And I have other agents just sitting there going, I haven't even really looked into it because my broker's looking into it, and whatever they tell me to do, I'm going to do. And the problem that I see is there's a lot of misinformation out there across the board on this. And as lenders, I think we can bring a unique perspective to them. Okay.
Yep.
And one of the things I think we can do is bring strategies, because a lot of lenders or a lot of realtors aren't thinking this through from a lending standpoint, A, because they don't have the experience in it, and B, they just haven't even thought about it. They think it's just affecting them. They don't realize it's affecting the lending side as well. Now, they're having conversations with a lot of lenders, but those conversations are very shallow conversations. They're not deep conversations. In other words, I had a conversation with a realtor who we've been doing business for 15 years. And I asked him, I said, well, what happens when you sign the buyer's broker agreement for 3% and you find a property that's paying 0% or 1%? How do you make up that shortfall? And he just immediately said, I had never thought about that. So these are things that we can bring in from LMP, from Mortgage Coach, and putting all these strategies together to figure out how to make up that gap for their commissions, right? So Scott, I know you've done a deep dive with compliance and also with underwriting on how to structure deals as well, because I think moving forward in the future, it's going to be very imperative for lenders to be involved upfront with the listing agent and the buyer's agent in deal structuring. I don't think enough realtors are thinking that side of it through either, because if you structure the deal incorrectly, it has a very good chance of falling out in underwriting. And I'll let you speak more to that.
Yeah, and I think because I do what's called clear path, right? I always taught you guys as a community when we did all our buy down stuff back in the day is you need to sit down with head of compliance, capital markets, underwriting, do your clear path, right? Just
Yep.
so when you originate that loan, it moves through efficiently and you're doing presentations out front and you don't do the clear path, you're going to look like a complete idiot. Like this guy does not know really what he was talking about, right? I knew it was too good to be true. So really critical. And every bank has a different position a little bit. I'll give you an example to where, when I sat down with them, they said, we do not want it written as concessions. We do not want an amended contract. So like Ken was saying, if we have a buyer broker agreement at 3% and we find the perfect house at 1, that gap of 2% is not going to, so let's say we're trying to, we'll just move the price up, we'll amend the contract, we'll get, make concession of 2% and use that to pay for it. No, you actually have to have it structured correctly. And I'm going to get in later how to structure these offers and submit them to the listing agent, because that's really the second problem we're going to talk about. But yeah, that's a great point as far as getting that clear path with your own bank. So let me ask this. I'm going to get in details, and I asked for a presentation from you. I want to show the goods because Ken's phenomenal as far as mortgage coach and an LMP member. So tell me a little bit, maybe without details or whatever. When you just met, I know, with a recent broker or agent that you presented to. What did you present? What was her responses? What were her concerns? What is she doing? And how did you respond to that? And I'm going to show, I have the presentation. I'm going to share my screen and show that as you're talking, if you don't mind.
Sure. So yeah, it was an agent that I've been working with. She runs a team of 8 agents. And so she's very experienced. Her agents aren't as experienced. And so one of the conversations was, now that you've got this team of agents that you're training to be real estate agents, they've never had to sell value before, because they, as buyer's agents, they just find a buyer and go out and find a property, and they didn't have to sell any value basically. Now, if they're looking for a buyer, they've got to compete with maybe 2 or 3 other agents and show what their value is compared to these other agents they're competing against, right? To sign that buyer broker agreement. You can't just sign a buyer broker agreement and go, here you go, let's go look at houses. That's all changing. So we talked about putting together a buyer presentation for these agents so that they can go into someone's living room or a meeting with a client and really show the difference that they've thought the process through. Right. And so there's certain tactics that we want to show on utilizing LMP and coupling that with Mortgage Coach. We can really put together a phenomenal buyer's presentation for an agent to take out there and train them on how to use it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So that's why I said I think we can bring, as lenders, we can bring a lot of value, a lot of our experience to the table here.
Yeah.
Hey,
So
Scott, are you willing to share that? Or Ken, are y'all willing to share the presentation in comments?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or
Yes.
Ken. Oh, okay. Thank you. So I'll give it to you, Deb, and then you can grab it. So that went over to you. So keep going, Ken. Let me ask you a few questions. What is her plan, right? For not only herself and her personal production, what is her plan as a broker leading her 8 agents, up and through this, right? So how are they going to adjust, right? Of getting in front of those buyers, move up buyers, first time home buyers, right? So let's just stay to that aspect of it. What was her plan?
So her plan currently is to just kind of figure all this out and then go and try to train her agents on how to present, right? So my point in saying that is there really wasn't a plan, right?
Yeah.
It's just, hey, let me figure this out with my broker, and then we'll start to train them a little bit.
Yeah.
So one of the things was they have a PowerPoint presentation, right?
Yeah.
Putting something like that together.
So let's go over this. So break this down, what we're looking at, right?
Okay.
And this is LMP, Lender Marketing Platform. So this is a use case on our platform here that I'm going to allow the Ken Watsons of the world to bring all of his aspects together so they can get into that living room or wherever they're meeting that consumer and present their value, right? There's the options, there's the transparency, what Dave talks about. So what is this here we're looking at? This is like a demo, like PowerPoint, like to say, and Ken edited his. So I asked if we could share it. So I go, hey, can you take some personal information off? So we put in kind of a fake agent. That would be the real agent there. So this
Yeah.
would be the PowerPoint, right? That they can
Yeah.
take link, right? Which Deb's going to share, and they can present. What if they have a deck, right? Of whatever it may be, PowerPoint, Canva, whatever. What else do we have on here, that you're going to dive into that's going to help them convert and get that buyer broker agreement signed?
So let's go back to the top a little bit. So that first position there can either be a PowerPoint presentation, or one of my recommendations to an agent was, why don't you put a video together and have a video presentation in that number one position, and then we can put the PowerPoint off to the side like we have here, the agent slide deck.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
The great thing about LMP is it's a beautiful presentation. It lives on this page, so this page can be bookmarked. The other thing about it is it can be scaled, so you can just continue to replicate this, right? So if you do it correctly, so you can do this at scale with realtors. You can have a beautiful presentation. The agent slide deck can be there. You have the agent's information, your information, and then as we scroll down, we put Google Forms in here.
So let me pause you for a second. I want to make this a point. Deb, you know what this is?
Yes.
You know, this, guys, just so you know, the world famous Jeremy Forcier shared a phenomenal buyer needs profile like a month ago. And we all saw like, oh shit, that thing's awesome. Yeah. But the problem I immediately thought of like, oh shoot, it's a PDF, right? So the client's not really going to take this, download it, print it, fill it out in pen, scan it, and get it back to me. So what we did was, like, and again, this is LMP, and love this, Ken. We just slid all of Jeremy's questions into a Google form. Yep. And so now the client can respond to these digitally, right? And get the answers and then submit this to Ken. And this shows up in Ken's Excel. So it's a lead, right? So it's all the data from that consumer. So every single agent he works with can have their own Jeremy Forcier, buyer leads form, but look how it's framed. So again, it's digitalized. So it makes it really easy to, oh, okay, I can fill that out. That's easy and quick. 2, it gets organized for Ken and the buyer agent. And then 3, it's framed correctly in here. It's with the other assets versus a standalone thing on its own. Like, oh, I'll get to print the PDF right later. So I just wanted to point that out, and thank you, Mr. Forcier.
Yeah, absolutely. We had that conversation, Scott and I, about how do we digitize this? So this is kind of what we came up with. And the great thing too is you can actually customize this to each agent. So you can create a form for each agent. If an agent wants to see different questions in there, you can create your own form for each agent. So and it's easy to pop that in. The next thing is, go ahead.
Oh yeah. So now what are some of these things? So this would be her scripting or his scripting as an agent, what they do, maybe some bullet points that NAR's providing them, and then kind of the bottom half, Ken anchors the bottom half of this presentation with some of the value adds he's collaborating with his agent. So the top half was really about Ruby here. The bottom half, Ken's going to take over and add his problem-solving financial skill sets. So go ahead, Ken. I don't mean to interrupt there. But also, I'm watching that clock, so I know you got to go.
It's okay. Yeah, I got a client consultation stuff coming up. But actually, the digital offer is, and Scott, I'll let you elaborate a little bit more on that, because it's a great tool that we're using at LMP to follow up with the offer. So as an agent sends an offer over, we're following up through a text, email format to the listing agent with an LMP format of the offer. And it's really a great presentation. Now that can also live with the listing agent throughout the transaction.
Correct.
So we can go back and alter that and update the listing agent on the transaction where things are going if need be. But why don't you just click into that and we'll take a look at what that looks like.
So this is what you send, right? So I know I had you mock it up because I don't want you to share
Mhm.
personal stuff. So this is
Right.
what you send over to the listing agent. Make that phone
Right.
call, drop it on the phone. So go ahead and talk about it.
So that number one position is just me maybe doing a video to the listing agent,
So proud to
explaining what this site is, explaining what our offer is, talking a little bit about the agent, talking a little bit about the client, and really just kind of walking through not only this page, but the details of our offer.
Yeah, and I think this is really important. I actually, in my presentation, I'm going to give to you here in a few minutes, I actually dive into this. And so I'm going to show you a problem that NAR is going to, the indirect impact, negative impact that's gonna put an onus on the offer. So I think, and I'm going to dive into this, but this is what it looks like. So Ken's bringing his team in there, so they're up front. The financing plan, the pre-approval letter, which is awesome. So he has all of this stuff, and this is being delivered directly into a listing agent and presenting. Really funny that I see this in here, Ken. I had an agent recently say, "Hey, could I join in on that? Could I get my fully executed purchase contract in there?" Because when I was talking to this agent, he goes, "Think of what you guys do on your one-touch underwriting, right? I want this to be a one-touch offer. I want them to see you, Ken, right? Of just what you've done with a client, but also I want to go along for the ride because," and I'll get into that later in this presentation, but I think this is super strong. And also, just so you guys are thinking, yes, you need a joint marketing agreement in place. So make sure, just don't go out
Yes.
there and sign up agents. Make sure you get your joint marketing agreement in place. So this is really good. I'm going to go back to it and I'm going to go, let's go just 2 more minutes. It's just kind of what are we looking at here? Remember, this is a buyer presentation that the agent is going over in the living room of the consumer to determine why us, right? Why me over the next agent you're going to interview. And what are some of these things that we're going to be looking at?
So when I have the agents introduce me in their buyer presentation, I have them introduce me as their finance team, not
Yep.
their lender.
Yep.
So let me, I want
Love
you to
that.
know that not only are you getting me, but you're getting my finance team right behind me. And here's some of the strategies that we're prepared for. For
Yep.
instance, what happens if we purchase and get a house? Let's say we build the compensation for the buyer's agent into the purchase price. So we increase the purchase price up, right?
Yep. Yep.
What happens if the appraisal comes in less, right? And so now we've got an appraisal gap. And how do we deal with that? So that's that presentation.
So the
Then,
consumer would click on this, right? Or the agent,
Mhm.
and then you could kind of take the living room floor, so to speak, and say, "Hey, this is how it works. We have you protected. We have a contingency plan in place if we need to pull that lever."
Yeah. And the great thing about LMP, if you scroll back up at the top, if they're in the living room and a client says, "I really would like to know more about these strategies," all they got to do is click schedule a call right there in the living room, and they can book an hour-long Zoom meeting with me and the client
Yeah. Love that.
directly. So
Yep.
we could then go in and have a deeper conversation with the client as to these strategies and help sell the client or help sell the realtor on that client.
Okay. Awesome. And you basically stole all my thunder, second half, but I love this.
The
But we're going to
second
go into
half is
detail. We're
yeah.
going to
So
go.
here's the commission gap.
Yep.
So again, that talks about how do we make up that shortfall, right?
Yep.
That we were talking
Exactly.
about. So
Exactly.
you find the dream property for the client, and the seller's paying 0, paying 1. You're contracted for 3. How do you make that gap up? So we put together a presentation for that through Mortgage Coach.
Yep. Love this right here. Look, it's at the bottom. There's your purchase. There's your buyer compensation agreement right there. This is great, guys. What's our next step? Great. I'm going to give you this link. Just go ahead and download it. Let's get it signed. Check. Yeah, heck, if we're putting Jeremy's in here, digitized, right? Let's get the buyer agreement somehow. We'll figure out that through DocuSign, maybe like that. Make it super easy. But it's right there, and you can close that client right in that living room and YU, so to speak. So
Yeah.
let's do this. I'm going to stop share. One, thank you. And then Deb's going to share this so you guys can take a peek at this. Number 2, before you leave here in just a minute, what would you encourage LOs, what are the things that, like, give me, because you're out in the front, you're in the front lines, literally chopping the forest down. You're in uncharted waters with a lot of these people, right? What are some of the things that maybe you wasted your time? And give us a quick little, like a little playbook, like a couple little tips that what we can emulate what you're doing.
Sure. So I put a lot of time and effort into building agent dashboards for a while, and that has worked, but not as well as this is going to work. So right now, all my focus is on NAR.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is there's a deadline coming up, right?
Yep.
And so if you can get out here over the next 2 months and present this at a high level, you're going to help your agents. You're going to help them get ahead of the curve. One of the things I talk to agents about is, listen, you have a unique opportunity right now, to grab market share that other agents are going to miss.
Yep.
If you work with us and put in these strategies together and present them, you will gain market share. Okay. So the opportunity ahead of them, I think, is something that a lot of agents aren't seeing yet. But we can bring that point to the table.
Yeah.
So Ken, how are you starting those conversations, like this team lead? And maybe it's with a new agent partner. I feel like that's where most people get stuck, is they just don't know what to say or how to start the conversation, or assume that they need help, maybe training their agent. So can you tell us a little bit about what you're saying to get those appointments?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm calling every agent that I know, and even doing some cold calling. And I'm saying, hey, can I interview you about the whole NAR settlement? I'd love to get your thoughts. We're taking a deep dive into it. As a lender, we want to know what your thoughts are.
Yep.
And they're open to talking to you, right?
Yep.
Because they want to talk about it, because they're not talking enough about it. So a lot of agents are getting training on concessions through Brian Buffini or Ryan Ferry or whoever, right? Tom Ferry. They're having all these conversations around their training, and it's all around concessions,
right?
But it's not around these concepts.
Nope.
Right? It's just not. They're not getting trained on this, and they're not even talking about it. So just opening up the conversation by, hey, can I interview you about NAR? I want to know your thoughts.
Yep.
That's simple, and you'll get conversations.
Yep. Awesome. Well, I know we're at the bottom. I know you got a meeting that starts in literally probably 30 a minute, 60 seconds here. One, I thank you. And then maybe we'll do a follow-up to this, and maybe we take, a deeper dive, because there's other things that we're doing with NAR, but obviously in an hour, we can only do so much. So appreciate you. Any parting thoughts?
Yeah. So real quick, and one of the conversations I had, there's so much more you can do with this, right? So one of the agents I talked to said, hey, can you add in a cost of waiting analysis for me? Can you add in a rent versus buy analysis? So we did that for an agent. So not only can you do these things, but there's so many other things that agents need to present. So anyway.
Well, and you could almost segment it that on the right, you have like financing strategies, and then that leads to the next lender marketing. And you could have first-time home buyer solutions, and that leads to a whole nother lender or first-time selling and buying if you're moving. So just a thought on, there's so many things you can do with lender marketing platform. And that's what's nice, is it marries all these different things all in one place with one link for people, not an email with all these attachments and then hyperlinking everything. And it can get very clunky and messy. So this is very professional, polished, innovative. It's great for the younger demographics who get annoyed with lack of technology. So great job, Ken.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really a canvas, and you're the artist. I'll leave you with that.
Nice.
Ooh, look at there.
Starbucks gift card coming your way. Keep it RESPA compliant, right? Under $5.
Thanks, guys, for the opportunity.
Thanks, Ken. Take care. Bye. So let's do this. So we're going to pick up the pace a little bit. So I'm going to get into the nitty gritty stuff. So let's go on. I prepared a deck. I'm going to bring that out, and I'm going to open up my mortgage coach, and we're going to get into this thing now. So
those listening, I want y'all to know, Scott did put the link because some of y'all asked, how do we learn more about lender marketing platform? He put the website there, and I also put the free demo call link that I got off of the website, where if y'all want to do it's a 45-minute demo and really go deeper, you can too. So that's in the chat.
Yep. Oh, thank you. Another Starbucks gift card going out. So let's do this. So now let's get into the 5 TCAs that we're going to help convert in there. And I'm going to frame this picture up. So I wanted to show you kind of the finished product and show a high level producer like Ken, who's a Mortgage Coach user, right? He's also an MBS Highway user too, just by the way. So he has all the tool sets. He can do whatever he needs to. And he's obviously one of us, LMP. So bringing that together, he's going out into the marketplace and presenting. So with that, let me share my deck and some of the stuff he talked about, but I'm going to go into greater detail. So our goal of this call for the last half hour is how I'm going to help you guys get in front of your buyer agents to get them in the living room and get more buyer broker agreement signed, period, right? That's what we're going to focus on now. And so how I look at NAR through my lens, there's really 2 hurdles I see. There's stuff that's going to be shaken out in the next 30 days or chains or edits and all that. I don't care about that. But I do know this for a fact. I do know they have to get this buyer broker agreement signed, period. And that's what we just discussed. They are not prepared to get into that living room and discuss to consumers, right? They don't have enough of a value add, because I'm going to show you questions that a consumer is going to ask that's going to just tear their presentation apart, and it's going to lead to a non-signed buyer agreement and probably, unfortunately, push to the listing agent directly. And you got all those can of worms being opened up with dual agency, all that. The second thing I see, which I'm going to discuss briefly, is this. This consumer is shopping blind. So the second thing with NAR is the removal of commissions off the MLS. So the first thing it's going to lead is this home buyer goes, well, wait a minute, if we sign and we don't know what we're getting into, and you can't answer these very simple financial questions, is how do I bridge the gap if I sign at 3 and they're offering 2 or 1 or 0? They're not going to sign. So they need to answer it. But also there's another problem that's going to rise from shopping blind. And I'll get to that in a minute. Let's look at options and transparency. I did this. I wanted to get the visual. I'm such a visual learner. This is the living room. This is the front line. This is the moment of truth. If you're dialed in as an agent and they don't maybe have us, they're going to fail. And I'll tell you what, there's great scripting, Tom Ferry, all of, great scripting, all that. That's only going to get you so far, because we're talking about money. We're talking about big money now. And you have to have big financial solutions for this. And so if our goal is to help them get it signed, let's lay out some things, some questions. And this is a perfect time, Deb. I would write this down, take a picture of this screen, and I'm going to share this deck with you guys. This is what I'm going to ask my agent when I'm meeting them. And I go, okay, Deb, so hey, Scott, I'm pretty dialed in. I don't really get asked. It's a nothing burger, right? As Ken said. Okay, Deb. So, okay, I get it. But let me ask you a few questions and tell me what you think about it. And these are going to come from the consumer you're meeting in the living room. Deb, what if your consumer asks you, hey, what happens if the property we find offers a low or no commission? Because I've been looking, Deb, and I realized there's no commission on the MLS starting the 18th, right? And we find the perfect home for us, and we realize, so what's your plan? Agent, buyer agent. Number 2. Okay, so if we increase the price, okay, little concern, but what happens if value doesn't come in? We get under contract, or if the listing agent's not comfortable with the offer because we've increased price, because the seller's maybe trying to get it at top of the market also, and we go above and beyond that, what's our plan if value doesn't come in? Well, Deb, we've been watching the rate market too, getting updated and watching stuff. What happens? What's our plan? And we're uncomfortable with the high payments and rates. What happens if they stay high? What's our plan? And last is this, Deb. We tried to get in 2 years ago and we left due to competition. What makes this time around how we're going to win and win offers in this market? Think of those questions right there, guys, that all of us as originators can take. And I'm going to show you how to get through all these right here, how we can win. Ken showed you. So I'm going to dive into specifically this one, the first one. What happens when there's no or little commission being paid? And so Ken gave you the appraisal gap and the commission gap in the buyer presentation. Go look at it. You guys know what it is. So imagine creating a TCA and dropping that now into a one-to-many buyer presentation. Well, rates are easy, guys. These are buy downs. That's the affordability presentation that Ken has in his buyer presentation. So he's showing the consumer on that couch, great. I know buy downs really well. I know temp, I know permit, and I know hybrids. We can figure out what's going to be best for you. And lastly, I'm going to show you this too today. I'm going to show you how we win in those offers. And so with that, our goal here is I want to enable you to go out into the marketplace to have a buyer presentation that this agent now is better prepared to show the options and transparency so he can check the box of his own value that he or she has already, that they've been trained and prepared for. But I'm going to give him the next four: commissions, appraisal, tight market, high market. I'm going to give him that. So how does that customer feel when they ask him or her, the buyer agent, in the living room these questions? Great question. I'm glad you brought that up. My lender partner here, Scott and Ken, they can articulate that. And so this is the buyer presentation, which we've shared. I'll share some more with you. I'm going to get into my screen and I want to show you this in particular. These are all the TCAs I've prepared for you, and there's 5 different ones that we're going to go over. So I'm going to bring up the presentation. Let's go here. And Deb, any questions we need to respond to or thoughts? How you doing with any of that?
There was a question about, and this was from Jim. He just had asked if you've ever done this with a full class of realtors, that he was thinking about doing a Zoom or in-person class, and that this would be a huge opportunity leveraging.
Oh, 1,000%, 1,000%.
Yeah.
All in. Yeah, this is the point, right? This is the point of what I'm teaching you guys.
This is what you put on the end of the hook, guys, to go fishing, like go whale hunting and go one to many, but like nobody else has this at the end of their hook. This is the bait that they all want. Okay.
So I have this presentation loaded in chat. I am not going to push it until I present it first, because I know you guys are going to be squirrel. I'm going to go over here and look. So what I prepared for you guys, you don't need to watch me in the beginning here. These are the 5 different scenarios that they're going to run into in that living room. And here's the opportunity for us Mortgage Coach users, to step up. And so here are the 5 real quick. So let's say the seller compensates both equally. That's going to happen. It's going to happen a lot, but I'm going to show you TCA, not only how we show it, but how we're going to protect moving into that. So I'm going to show you in just a second. The next scenario that's going to happen, and I think this is going to be more prevalent. I don't know, none of us really know but I'm seeing it happen already. The seller's going to pay the listing agent, but he's going to pay a partial out to the buyer agent, 1, 1.5, 2, or something like that. But they have a full contract buyer agency signed at 3. How do we bridge that gap? So we're going to look at that. Also, hey, what does it look like paying cash? What if I have additional funds? Could I just pay cash? I don't think that's going to happen a whole lot. I think number 4 and number 5 are going to happen the most. And number 4 and number 5 are this: by increasing the price to cover the agent is a viable solution, but also what I'm going to show you in this TCA, how we protect that, how we protect it. I call it the commission gap. I derived that term, and we all know the appraisal gap. I go, well, shoot. We know we're going to struggle with appraisals, and we're going to struggle with appraisals mightily because, without getting into great detail here and off subject, is how many offers are going to be written with and without buyer compensation in the prices, meaning you're going to sell a tract of homes that are identical. Some of them had to have financing built in, some didn't. And so you're going to have different type of values for the same house. So you're going to have to be the master at the appraisal gap. And the last one we're going to look at right now is, okay, what if I don't want to raise the value, but what if I alter my down payment and I finance in there? So let's look at this. Let's just go into a partial. And this is Dave's Dave's TCA that we now in Lender Marketing Platform can incorporate and then kind of sexy it up. But also, if you notice, I can show all 5. So I'm not just showing hyperlinks, I'm showing the full presentation. So let's look at this. And here's Dave's TCA. I recorded my video on that. So I have a Loom. I like to use Loom. So I drop a Loom into the first position in his video player. So that's Dave's player, and I just dropped it in. But what I'm doing is I'm going over this. So what we're effectively showing the consumer, and this goes back to options and transparency. This is what we're going to solve a lot of problems and get those buyer broker agreements signed. So in that first column, if we realize, remember the blindfold? Oh, we found the house, Dad, let's go, right? Oh, shoot, they're paying 1%. So I got a 2% delta to go. So in this scenario, we lay out in the video, we say, got you covered. So we found the perfect house. We realize now it's 1%. It's going to be late in the game. It's after they've identified the property because of no income or compensation being disclosed. So we're going to come in here, alter price. It's going to affect $89. And then what is that? $2,800. Okay, nice trade-off. And then lastly, I protect every single offer I'm putting together with compensation agreements. And so, yes, we have a problem. I solved it in 2 and I protected it in 3. And I have this in every single one of these, no matter if it's even an equal distribution of assets, meaning 3%, 3%. Important thing. Got you covered. But when we make the offer, I'm still going to protect it, even though they're going to pay for it. And when they pay for it, what that does is, what that helps, and especially in a TCA that we can show, I can show additional options. I don't have to eat up like, oh, shoot, I just jacking price up to get an agent paid. Well, what if there's affordability issues? Well, this TCA, I'm going a little fast, so I'll pump the brakes a little bit. The compensation was equally distributed, right? That means it was fully funded, right? The buyer agreement. That leaves me as an originator to be creative again. So I said, sweet, don't have to worry about the compensation. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to get you a temporary buy down. So we're going to offer $714 with the 14 back. We're going to save you $644 a month, right? Not only that, I'm going to protect this offer. And this is what I'm going to show the listing agent when we submit the digital offer on the platform. Does that make sense? You guys may have glossed over the first one, like, what'd you put a TCA together for? Well, this is going to happen a lot. So it allows you creativity and allows you protection. Let's go down to, let's say, the 4th one. Yes, I agree. I just saw that comment pop in. Is this for everyone? No. Unfortunately, minimum down payments, are going to be impacted. So anything more than the minimum, you can always protect it, right? That's unfortunate. The consequences that are going to, we have to be creative in that. So that's still be determined. So let's say we say the down payment, like Jeremy Forcier, I loved how he presented this to you guys recently. So in this TCA, lay it out. Remember, this is all one-to-many stuff, guys. This is the stuff that every single agent, if I were going out for 100 agents right now, they all get the same piece of presentation. So what I'm showing them here, same property, but no comp. How do I deal with it, right? And so how I deal with it, I altered the financing. So I took it away from the down, increased the loan amount, payment adjusted. I maintained minimal cash to close, but I also protected it. Think of this is really, really important because you're going to get pushback from your agent saying, hey, Scott, that's all fine and dandy and all that good stuff. And we inflate or do this and do that. But, appraisal's not going to come in. That's going to be a problem. Well, that's why I think it's critical, for an example, that you show the 3 columns. This is what we found. We realized there was no comp. This is our solution. We're going to alter the financing and finance that compensation agreement. And then we're going to protect that offer. So if I miss by, in this case, 30 grand, I protect rate, I protect payment, and my cash to close budged $800. That's it. And you guys, I have full TCAs in here for you guys. You guys can dive into this and look at all of the details. And so any questions or thought on this, guys?
There was a question about the protection scenario. They're not quite understanding what you
Yeah, it's
said.
called you guys understand what an appraisal gap is, right? So whoever asked that, that's just an appraisal gap. So I actually, you know what I'll do? I'll pull a video up, how to build an appraisal gap. How's that?
But this is also the importance of clearing your path, like you talked about at the beginning with your compliance
Yes.
team, your head of underwriting, so that you know how it needs to be worded in your offers and in your contracts, so that you
Yes.
don't get any kinks once it's under
Yes.
contract.
So
Yeah, and I want to make sure people don't miss Scott. I mean, first of all, you've done an incredible job of showing, 5 great strategies to help an agent, get a buyer agreement signed, and you've showcased your platform. But I just want to make sure people really connect the dots on, what this lender marketing platform can do in terms of you and an agent could partner. You've got mortgage coach reports that help educate that consumer, help give them options, help give them transparency. Great agents also have things that they're presenting to that consumer. And instead of like this disconnected, it's an email and it's got 5 links, or the real estate agent has a presentation, like with Lender Launchpad, it can be one link and it can have the real estate agent's information. It can have the mortgage coach addressing needs. This is innovative, like as a platform that can really help agents when they need it most.
Yep. So I'm gonna go back to my, oops, I didn't mean to stop share. So hold on a second. I'm gonna show you kind of the last thing with this. So two links I just put in there, Deb. Can you confirm they went? Number one, I gave you this presentation with all of the 5 different TCAs to help no matter what happens in the living room or situation comes up, you can solve it. And that's what a buyer wants. If you can help me minimize that cash to close, because here's what a buyer's not going to sign. They're not going to sign an agreement where they have an empty spot not answered or a question not answered. What happens if we do find the perfect house and they're offering no commission? They're not going to sign it. I'm telling you guys, they're not going to sign it. And so let me show you this last part. And this is tying everything down. This right here, the blind, what this means here is the removal of the commissions off the MLS unfortunately put a lot of onus on the listing agent here. Can you see my slide, Deb?
Yes.
Yeah.
So by taking commissions off, it puts a real big onus on the problem-solving skill sets I just gave you. So right there, you don't know that. So when they ask, the buyer agent says, I got you covered. We won't know it until we solve it, but I'm going to give you every different scenario of what could happen if we find a house that has a limited and no or full or whatever. Here's the other unintended consequences here. By removing the commission off the MLS, how's the listing agent's job function now? My gosh, geez, stop calling. It's 2%, 2%, 2%, 2%, 3%, 1%, 0. So let's fast forward this. Let's go to August 18th. You have a client approved. They've identified the house. They're paying 1%. You pick the perfect TCA solution. You have that prepared. You've huddled. You're financing that into the purchase price. The buyer agent goes right. How complicated are these offers going to be is question number 1. Are they going to get simpler or more complex? Number 2, how hard is it to be able to get hold of a listing agent moving forward? It's going to be really difficult. But what if I can pick up the phone and do this? I'm going to show you what is called a digital offer. It's a use case on our platform. I make a call to Steve and it goes just like this. Hey, Steve, Scott Nicholson over here at Bank 123. We're going to be writing an offer on 123 Makeup Street. I'll be working with Brad Kurt. He is the buyer agent. He's already submitted the fully executed purchase contracts, so check your email. When I hang up, Steve, I'm going to text you a private link. And in that private link has 3 things for you and your seller. Number 1, it has the pre-approval letter, which you can download for your records. Number 2, has a short video from me, the lender, describing what we've done as far as underwriting conditions. Number 3, client gave us authority to share how and why we're structuring the offer the way we did. And if you were to look at this, we structured the compensation in there. So Ken, if you go back and rewind the tape here, he says you better do your compliance, make sure your banks have structured everything correctly. So meaning we're going to put it in price. I don't want an amended contract. I don't want the word concessions. I want a buyer broker agreement compensation paid at 3% because we're going to build it in there. And not only that, listing agent, we're going to protect it. We're going to protect our offer all the way down to 681. So this is a big deal. And this is what we call, and Dave has the perfect words, and I'm using too, it's options and transparency. This is why I love being on this call, showing you how powerful your Mortgage Coach TCAs are going to be moving forward, but in collaboration with the lender marketing platform, so you can work with your agent partners to not only get a signed buyer broker agreement in the living room, but also how to convert that client in the offer situation. So I'll stop sharing, and then you guys can kind of take over or ask questions or feedback from there.
So what do you guys think? Give us a reaction. See a lot of hearts coming. Scott, killing it. So Deb, questions, thoughts, anything you want to make sure people pull from this?
Well, the first thing that I want people to just kind of ask themselves, especially as, how you framed the call, Dave, that this will be a historic Q3. And that the agents who innovate and collaborate with the right lender partner will win. So the question is, are you the right lender partner? And if so, how? How are you helping them innovate? How are you going to help them win? We just saw great examples from Ken and Scott. Imagine if these guys were in your backyard and you're going up against their solutions. What is it that you do differently? And really spend some time thinking about that, because you too have to know how to articulate your value to an agent to win the agent partner, but you got to have something valuable that they would appreciate. So, we got to start there and just rip that Band-Aid off. And it's okay if, you don't really know, like we started in the beginning, you could be of the mindset that you don't think this is a big deal, or you could be thinking it is a big deal and you're scared. And then you may just end up doing whatever your team lead or maybe branch manager decides, you're just going to follow suit. But at the end of the day, you have to be able to know what your value is, and are you the most valuable person in your agent's life and your consumer's life? Because they have options now. So how do we help them uncover which option is best for them? We got to get in the mess with them and figure that out with transparency. And this is a great platform to do that.
Yeah. And I think, oh, go ahead, Dave. Sorry.
No, you go ahead, Scott.
I think, and let me just kind of keep connecting the dots here. I see this comment a lot. I'm going to tell you a dinner experience I had in Las Vegas at the recent event. Let me tell you the dinner experience. So this person, we'll leave her name out, high producer, big company, had dinner, Deb and I, and she's a Mortgage Coach user. She's a lender marketing platform user. She took Deb and Phil Jones's advice. She went and did a survey on her closed clients recently, like a large swath of them. And simply put, she asked them, how do you feel the buyer agent, would you do it tactfully here, right, without offending anybody, but buyers, how did you feel that the amount of money that was paid, that the value that was provided through your buyer agents? So she asked that. Guess how many consumers answered her with, we feel like the buyer agent's value was represented with the money charged. Guess how many people answered with they were satisfied with the buyer agent? One. I was like, whoa. And so
I was very surprised by that.
Yeah. And so that's what was shocking, but that's what's coming your way, guys. So if you're going to force somebody to sign an agreement in the living room and they're not articulating value, they're going to shoot that back at you, right? And says, we're not signing that. Right. And unfortunately, they're going to be pushed over maybe into the listing agent showing at open houses. Right. That's maybe a whole nother webinar we'll do here of showing how LMP and Mortgage Coach can really dive into your open house experience. So number two is, this is a common response I'm seeing from agents right now, is Well, I'll just show them. So yeah, don't worry, guys. Here's the transparency problem right here in our industry. The agent in the living room says, yeah, good question. Yeah, we're going to find homes that aren't going to pay the full 3%. Don't worry. I'll just show you the homes that are 3%. That's a major problem. That's steering. That's a lot of different problems. But the point is, think about this for a second. If I was a home buyer and that was their response to my wife and I, we're already at a limited inventory. That means you're going to take more inventory off the market because I have to pay your compensation. That's a problem. And so again, you cannot go to these meetings not prepared. And this is why this is such an awesome opportunity to really show that TCA with the 5 solutions, load that into a lender marketing platform, and start really knocking down these people at scale. And so just two cents on that. I think that was an eye-opening dinner conversation we had.
All right, guys. So we got 3 minutes left. The action I want folks to take, if you're not already a mortgage coach, you don't have the tools and the training to win at scale in this market. If you are not a lender marketing platform customer, you're missing out on a huge opportunity to have one link. Hey, realtor, let's do a value prop audit and really make sure that you've got the best value prop to win in your local market. And I want to make sure you know what I'm doing. I want to make sure that I'm edifying you. And I want to make sure that we're really upgrading our presentation together. So, Scott, have you told people if they wanted to get a demo or get signed up, have you given a link?
Got the link in chat. It's lender marketing platform. So it's lender.marketing. Put the link in there. I do all the demos. So you're going to see me. We do a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 a.m. And we'll be walking you through the platform. It's really intuitive to use. It's simple. We go simple, really ground level, just get you count set up. And then we start building like a little builder presentation. But here's the cool thing. So that Ken Watson presentation you showed earlier, he just copied mine. Literally, but I encourage you guys to do it. I want you. Copy. Thank you. I'm out to market. That's the beauty of the product.
Which not Beautiful. To put but urgency, guys, August 17th is going to be here. We've got one more week of June. And this is such a huge value add that you guys can leverage and go speed to need for your agent partners, where they're going to need help with this. They need to be role playing and scripting and practice being in the living room and upgrade their skill set to being that real estate advisor, where they're showing it's not just a 3% commission for this transaction of 30 days, it's 30 years. But we've got to upgrade their value and improve that they are actually going to do the things that they then say they're going to do.
I'll leave you with this script. Sorry, Dave. One last thing. Sorry, bud. So look at this script right there, because I hear you say this all the time. We're great at communication, negotiating, service, but our focus is helping our clients navigate the complexity of NAR to see achievement wealth through homeownership. And I'll summarize here. We're not, so what makes us so special and what problems we can solve, we want to show you and have available every single house that's on the market, not just the select few that are paying commission. And so take that script, let your agent grab that, and then support that, with those TCAs on LMP. So there you go. Sorry.
It's okay, Matt. Hey, so the battle is being waged right now. It's not like, oh, do it. So before, right now, every realtor is reassessing their partnerships. They're open-minded to upgrading their presentation. So it's like this battle is being waged now. It's not going to, by the time August comes around, the battle is over. They've got their new partners. Now, I'm not saying I think this entire year is a massive opportunity to gain market share, to recruit realtors, but just be clear, the battle is going on right now. Hopefully you got tons of value from today's call. We've told you how to learn more about lender marketing platform. You've learned how Mortgage Coach can integrate. Give us a little reaction, what you thought of the overall experience today. I see a number of people. Jim
like hearts.
Carpadelli has already signed up. Great job. And Beautiful. Well, guys, this is a wrap. I want to remind everybody, if you have not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, Mortgage Coach YouTube channel, subscribe today. If you are not checking in at savageinsights.com, I've always got, the most valuable recent interview I've done towards the top. And I've always at the very top have a link to the next event that I'm doing. So follow that. Also make sure that you get on the mobile club. That's one of the top 5 links. It will give you a phone number, and I send out 2 or 3 texts every week that will help you be an advisor, help you win in the marketplace. So Scott, thanks for the nice comment. Really appreciate you. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. And today is a wrap. Take care, y'all.
Thank you all. Thanks, Dave. Take care. Thanks, Deb.